Everybody, welcome again. It's hard to believe it's the third session already. It seems no time since the first one, but the way it goes. Again, I suppose like the last day, we'll keep the mics off just for the purposes of the presentation in case there's any background noise, and the session will be recorded. John has started that now. If you don't mind, maybe just sign in your name and organisation into the chat function, just so we know who's in the room. And other than that, Colm, I'll just hand over to you.
Yep. Good afternoon, and apologies again for my scheduling issues. I'm going to take you through a couple of slides today. I suppose it is a very visual presentation. Can people see my screen?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Oh, why is it not doing that now? It was working perfectly a little while ago. So today I want to look at social media in a particular context, and I'm looking about how we continually champion our ask in this space, and then our program, as opposed to championing the event or the program and not necessarily our ask, which I think is a common enough failure on all our parts, because we view social media as an adjunct of the public relations or the marketing function, which is just to pass information out there to people, without seeing, I suppose, the seismic changes that have happened in social media in the last certainly 5 to 6 years, and have been accelerated somewhat with the COVID. The final session, which is on the 10th of December, will be the program prompts, and just looking at ways that you can deliver different elements of programming within level 3 to 1 type restrictions, because God willing, that's where we will be, or elements will be there from Paddy's Day out of next year, with the vaccine stories and all the good news that we're hearing. And just to look at how the hybriding of events between the live and the online can deliver and empower some connectivity to people. So that's our next program prompt, is the Thursday the 10th between 3 to 4. And I'm taking the bookings now for those groups who want to come and spend a little time on their own with me. Just email me through from now to the suppose the 8th of December, and I'll facilitate you, but please give me 3 times so that I can pick one of those 3 times where your team can be assembled. And again, if you can email me through, and I know a number of you have done this already, which is great, some of the topics you want me to address, so I can have some, not Doreen Allen pre-prepared appetites, but I have an idea of where to steer the conversation to assist you in. So most presentations to do with social media will teach you the how-to of the mechanics of all the different platforms. This chat today is just to get you to think a little differently about all the platforms and your cloak or your clothing on those different pegs. And I'm not going to give a very technical or a very engineering focused back-end view of what's going on here. What I'm feeding into you with is what I have seen in the last 4 years of the festival pop-up clinics that we've done around the country, where we've sat down with festival organisers and community event organisers like yourselves, and we have workshopped through some problems they've had with social media and getting maximum return from the time they're investing in it, as volunteers or as coordinators or team members, crew members, or staff. Okay? So if you think this is a technical discussion on how to move a photograph from Instagram across to Pinterest and back to Facebook and into a message, forget about it. There are other programs, and the online space is full of those freebie courses that you can do between TED Talks and everything else. But I just want to get us to look at this space slightly differently than the way we have been conditioned to look at it up to now. So here's some figures I pulled off the MRBI. They're good to the middle of this year, and I know there's new figures coming out soon which will change this again in terms of who is looking at different types of social media platforms. Because you won't find all of your audience on everything. You'll find bits of your audience or bits of the people you wish to engage with in different zones. And the lion's share, I guess, of the people who follow you today, between that bandwidth of 25 to 75, are in Facebook land. Now, different pockets across from Facebook into Instagram and LinkedIn, but that isn't necessarily where we're at, I think, in this community and volunteer event sector. Pinterest is growing. Twitter is significant but waning between the 18s to the 30s. Reddit, not so much. But the huge figures that are off the graph for pandemic time is TikTok. And TikTok is where the 15 to 30s are playing on our social media sites at the moment. So if you have a particular element of your program, a particular aspect of your community center that is appealing to that swath of demographic, you need to consider some TikTok responses and some TikTok content. I pulled this down from the RTE news player there at the end of September. And again, the CSO will report in December, and I would suspect those figures will even grow. But just looking at people's use in pandemic times of different social media has literally, it's off the graph. And when we come out of this phase of our evolution, I don't think it's going to fall back fully to pre-pandemic levels. I think there's been a whole swath of people who have been engaged to shop online, to bank online, to select online, to be online as a result of sitting at home and cocooning, or sitting at home and working from home. That event organizers and community voluntary groups are going to have to move to that location. And evidence of that is even today. I would not have gotten, as AOIFE, the type of engagement we're getting from online teaching or online workshopping had it not been for the pandemic. And it's just that people are taking their news feed, they're taking their information prompts differently from social media now, because they've played with it so much in the last 7 or 8 months. And that has consequences for how we post stuff to it if you want to get a reaction, which is to go and buy the ticket, attend the event, click to the Go Me, push the Donate Now button, whatever the effect that we require them to undertake as a result of seeing the content. That has changed and won't be going back to pre-pandemic times. And here is something that all of social media is about content, and it's about getting your story into that space in a format that the platform will and the user of the platform will happily accept. So to champion isn't to suggest, to champion is not to meekly advise that we're over here and that we have a very interesting community hall and we have a very interesting quarterly program event. In the poster and sticking up in the back of the feeling value anymore. When we go different times, because of the nature of the year or the nature of the program or events that you're producing, but the simpler our ask it is, the easier it is to understand. And when you look at the behind the scenes data for when Irish people are using social media, there are 3 touchstone points to the day. And those windows are getting narrower. There's the post early morning shower or bath and commute and work coffee time of the day, where people will scan their phone on the car on the way in, or in the train on the way in, or the bus on the way in, or after they lock up the bike in the office foyer or in the canteen area. That's the first sort of belt that people check their Facebook account, their Twitter account, their Instagram account of the day. They'll check whatever news feeds they have, whether it's journal.ie or the Irish Times, Irish Independent, the Star or the Guardian, or wherever they're going for their news, or RTE or whatever. And the next time is break time, wherever that break time sits in that person's day, whether it's the 11s, the half 10s, the canteen breakfast, whatever that might be. There's a moment there in the day that people will tune in. Obviously lunchtime, and that's anywhere between 12 and 2 or 12 and 2:30. And then there's the commute home time. And the final part of the day, and this is very interesting, isn't, everyone says, oh, well, they just check it before they go to bed maybe around 9:30, 9 o'clock. It's not. It's the key advertising moments on the mainstream TV channels, when Coronation Street, when Fair City, and the other big soaps or huge family shows of the night go to ad break. Because who's ever on the couch will quickly pick up the phone and have a quick scan through to see what's new. because they ain't looking at the ads anymore. And because those shows are live, they're not coming through Netflix, or they're not coming through perhaps a pipe channel, they can't remove the advertising. So you have a very narrow window in those moments of the day to get a very simple ask into the hand. And the other thing that a lot of us forget is, because we're in the office working the laptop or the computer sending out the message, we're assuming the recipient is in front of a laptop reading the message. They're not. They're reading it off this. That's where 80% of all social media is being consumed today, is off the phone. So us writing it and scripting it to be laid out the way we're looking at it on a laptop is wrong. We need to think the way the end user is receiving this information. So here's a bit of a giggle about what we do with our hands. And you know, there's different clasps, so there's different hand wringing. And when I see a lot of community groups and festival and event groups going into the social media space, I always think of the hands. And I always think of, where is your corporate hand at with the way this ask is being scripted, with the way I'm looking at the visuals and the content of what you've placed here? Is it a futile? Is it a yes, we're on par? Is it a, you know, congressional? And I think it's important to think about what your hands location or your hands positioning is when you go to look at tone of content in social media platforms. So when you post your continual ask, or when you're updating, are you coming from the position of your handout? We need, we want, we urgently require. Is that what the prompts are saying? Or is it, yes, I want to be involved, that's a great idea, include me in, my hand is in the air, this is what I want to be involved in, this is what I want to go and do. Absolutely, that's my hand up. Is that what your simple ask is? Or is that what it's selling or smelling or looking like? Because the other key to understanding social media in today's zone is words don't matter. It's visual concept that arrests, that stops the viewer from scrolling up. It's the visual that hooks them in. Yeah, it ain't the text. And a lot of us have a huge difficulty with that, because we put a lot of work and effort into scripting, into content writing, but in actual fact, it's the visual. Or is it that you want the hand to affirm? You want the viewer, you want the reader, you want the end content user to go, absolutely, way to go, Donegal Volunteer Agency. I'm with you on this one. Where's the button to donate? Where's the button to buy? Where's the button to send my subscription? Where's the button? Where's the link for me to sign the petition now that this agency has to be protected against the cuts, or that Letterkenny General Hospital must remain open, or whatever the story is? Where do I go with this gesture? And a lot of us are trying to throw everything that's in the newspaper or in our annual report or in our program into a space that's designed for nanoseconds of engagement. So I would ask you, in the next few slides and prompts I'm going to do with you, to think about where your ask is in terms of those hand gestures for the person who is receiving the information. So the first point that I would ask everybody to do after this is to check the narrative content in all your social media zones. And that is the descriptive passages about, we are, address, organizational benefits, all that sort of text that sits there that people, once the thing is bought or built, they never change, because why would you? And I'm just saying that so many of us in the community and voluntary and not-for-profit sector particularly use negatives to define us in a way that by the time I've them read, I have no enthusiasm to continue playing with their site. So if you can re-script what you have there and remove from the jargon, we are just a, we're only a voluntary group, we're dedicated, not-for-profit focused. What does that mean? Why are we using a negative to explain something that's positive? Whoa, what happened there? Sorry about this. Bereft of local government, HSE love and tenderness, we decided to get together. A huge field of negative vortex by the time I get to why you got together. It's, yes, it's narrative, and yes, it's important history, but in social media, the vibe has a nanosecond to instill itself into the head of the end user. You know, forged in the wake of the Ice Age disaster that saw. All that stuff, get rid of it. Nobody wants to engage in that, tragically. Leave it to the history folder on your website. So begin with, we exist to, or we deliver for West Donegal families to. Fill in the gaps yourself, Linda Barney yourselves. We cater to the needs of. We improve the lives of 800 initial carers. We provide 800 hours of youth programming a month. We keep the 300-year tradition of sailmaking alive for generations here in Moville. I rarely read these type of descriptive contents in home pages, in home accounts of any festivals or community events that I'm engaging with. And that has to change, or we're going to lose the new user, the person we're reaching out to. And another throwaway remark I would give to you all is that too many of us are so passionately involved in the entity that we support that when we go to animate our social media space, we're already doing so from the point of view of, I know the store. I know exactly where the beans shelf is. I know exactly where to get the best beans, and everybody else, I'm assuming, knows it as well. And one of the biggest difficulties of looking at particularly Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram feeds of clubs or societies is that they are only written for the insiders. They're never scripted, never engaged with for the person who's having a wander along. And if you're telling me that you need new people involved, you want new committee members, you want new volunteers to sign up, you want to find new audience for the St. Patrick's Day concert in your hall or for the summer school or whatever it is that you might be doing, then you have to rewrite the content of these social media signpostings for an alien, for somebody who doesn't know a lot about what it is that you're doing. So try and find a way, and this is difficult because you can write a mission statement that has 500 words, but the real trick is to try and write it in 60 words or less. So it's that little bottom of the film of the business letter that says, we exist to, founded in 1963, to engage with, to deliver to. There's a little strip that should be in everyone's business letter or on the home page of their website that says, we do, we are, we exist because. Find a way to shrink that to 60 words. And then make sure, and that is your ask, that's your core mission as to why you're about the place at all. Make sure that that is on the website that you own. And people always say, well, Colm, we have a Facebook page, with Twitter, why do we need a website? My perspective on this is very simply, if you have a lovely helmet, a wonderful overcoat, and a stripy uniform, you cannot sit that on a pair of bare feet. The website is the polished boots of an online presence for any organization. In other words, you can always refer back to the website and you can hang things on it that can't be hung around the other elements of the social media family. And more importantly, when somebody, and again, this depends on who your audience is, when somebody from East Jesus, Arkansas wants to find out about you, they go to the Google search engines first. And they're happier to look at your own domain site first before jumping to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and all TikTok and all the others. So the introductions and all flag landing sites, people look at me and go, what are they? What's he on about? What jargon is that? I'm going, it's not just enough to have your 60 mission word format on your own sites, but you also need to make sure that other sites that people feed into you from carry the same consistent message. That's very important. And I'll talk you through some gateway sites in a minute. Because I have seen community groups around the country who invest phenomenal time and energy and resource into polishing the last fathers on the Facebook site and investing no time at all on the tunnel that you have to travel to get down to see your Facebook page. And that's what I mean by gateway and landing sites. So what do I mean by the 60-word mission statement? I'm not doing, I did this before and I got badly burned. I don't go out onto Facebook Live or onto the Google Live in a Zoom because it's real live and I wouldn't know who would come in on top of me with a message from all the things I'm involved in. So I'm using flat screens here, so I don't have connectivity other than to you. So I apologize for that, but that's the best I can do. But some of the examples I'm using, you can check in your own time as well. But this is a Facebook intro. It doesn't cost any money. Everyone has a Facebook site by now, I presume. But look at the way Clifton Community Arts has expressed themselves succinctly, cleverly, clearly in less than 60 words. And see less means that when you actually open the page in your phone, you can see more. it stops somewhere at traditional music and concerts. And the rest is, if you want to read some more, you can. So you need not alone to just dress your own window, but the runways and the air lounges and the boreens that will take them to it. So I would ask everybody who tells me that the social media environment is important for them and for their program prompts to take the scooter ride from an alien's viewpoint, which means start where somebody who has just moved in to Culdaff from Dublin or from New York has landed there and is sitting at home on a wet winter's night with their phone in front of them and wondering, what can I get involved in Culdaff? Because that's the new person that you want in your community hall, or that you want on your community team, or that you want in your arts event, I would assume. And watch the journey they have to make to connect to the Facebook page or to the Instagram account or to the website that you may have designed for them. So let's just work with me on Clifton for a moment. I know it's from my home county, but just bear with me. So when you put Clifton Arts into Mr. Google, which is the first search engine that most people use, you get, this is what I like, there's 495,000 results. But cliftonfestival.ie is up there at the top of the search engine because with their website, they have managed to do SEO, search engine optimization, correctly, which I'm not going to talk to you too much about this, but it means meta tagging the pages on the website that allow your festival, your organization, your community group to come to the top of the 594,000 results in 58 seconds. And that's an important investment of time and energy. There's no additional costs involved. It's just the actual taking down some of the pages with your web designer and reinsert them with meta tags. Okay. The other thing that I like about Clifton is that within the third prompting, because they have animated Google's maps, the Google map hoves into view and indicates where the Clifton Festival Arts Office is. The amount of festivals and community events in the country who have no connectivity to Google Maps is about 75%. And we know from Fáilte Ireland that the independent traveller, that's the independent tourist whether they come international or local, makes a lot of decisions on sat-nav as to where they pull in or where they're going. Yeah. So map to content and map to program is now becoming quite important. This is where they let themselves down. The other place that people go to is Wikipedia. So, and again, this is something you could do because we might have some slower weeks going into Christmas, and we may have some slower weeks in the new year. You can do this alien visitation to how they get to you yourself. So put your organization, put in Letterkenny Community Centre, put in Dunlow Community Resources into Wikipedia and see what comes up. Very often, it'll just be the name of the town with the connectivity to the atlas information that the ordnance provide. And wherever else the government departments are mentioning your activity or your event, it's very rarely animated by festival or community organisers. I like the boys and girls in Willie Clancy in Malbay. They have managed to own the space and they do it rather well. And when you put in Willie Clancy Summer School into Wikipedia, you get nearly 17 mentions and 17 articles. And all that is free to do, it's just time. There's on the TripAdvisor map of what to do, Clifton, the Clifton Arts Festival comes up as a building and shows the dates of the next edition. So even though I may not have been looking for a festival or a community event, when I was looking for Clifton, it came up in the map to me. And I can jump onto that button and it'll take me directly to their home landing page, whether it's the Facebook account or whether it's the website. Now, how many of us are doing this? Not a lot is the truth, because you have to work on the connectivity between the platforms so that the user can just seamlessly hop across because it's all waymarked for them. I was appalled, maybe it's just the season we've had. TripAdvisor is a huge site that people go to regularly. What's on in Letterkenny, what's on in Ballybuffet, events in Nairn Portnew, Glencullen activities. They'll fire it into TripAdvisor, and TripAdvisor is animated and owned by the accommodation sector. But the wiser owls, particularly in Kerry, in the Kingdom, have started to animate their events in there, so that in the 10 top things to do or in the maps, the festival or the community event is coming up in TripAdvisor. So in each location now, folks, Donegal is a big territory, I know, there are different gateway sites into what you might be doing. And I've just found one or two, and then I'm going to just show you. Festival Events in Donegal is a significant site managed and run by the Donegal Tourism Interests. So is your 60 words and link to your most relevant site on there appropriately? I don't know. How often do you check that site link to you? And how often do you check it for a new visual or for an change in dates? I was on it yesterday evening in preparation for today, and about 70% of the dates on it are the cancelled dates from this year with no forward dates. About 25% have the forward dates of where the event has been rescheduled to. The Rory Gallagher, I came across Mary from Donegal, I came across the County Flag, came across, there was Squel Givra, Frank Kennedy was there. But they were in the minority because people are not animating the gateway site into them. What's on Letterkenny? I presume there are what's ons for different parts of Donegal. What's on in a show may exist. But again, is your event, is your community activity in here at the appropriate time with the appropriate visual and the correct link to your ask? Because if it's not, you're creating cul-de-sacs and barriers for people to engage with you properly. Go visit in a show, and you might say, if you're up here in a show and you wouldn't use that site, you mightn't. But if you were a new resident to in a show, or if you were a visitor passing through, this is where your phone will direct you to first. They're never going straight to your community council website or the town hall website because they don't know it exists. They have to be signposted there. So quickly looking at that magical thing of Facebook, which in a sense has, I suppose, overtaken the website some way, in some ways for content. One of the biggest problems that I am finding and have found for the last 5 years in this space is that the pioneer who sets up the Facebook page as a gesture to the committee is the one that has the keys of the kingdom forevermore. And for others to change stuff or to amend stuff or to put up different photographs or to change things, find it a challenge. So Facebook has already acknowledged this in that there are a hierarchy of post officials within a site. So there's a registration name behind the Facebook page. It has to be registered to a CLG, PLC, cooperative or not for profit. And then there's a host of email addresses that you can give to Facebook for verification and corroboration purposes. I will be recommending as good practice that at least 3 individuals connected to the organization have at least editor status to manage the Facebook settings and account of the organization. Because if Bridie goes down with a flu, or Tom has to go to Dublin on a secondment to work, or Sean just has a row with the committee and leaves in a huff, you still have the ability to change what is up there. So many people have guerrilla sites that are fossilized, they can't take down, they don't know who owns the codes, they don't know, well, that's Bridie, she's gone back to Boston, or that was the daughter of. It's all a big phenomenon. Clean that up if you can by having 3. And they don't have to be the PRO, they don't have to be the office secretary, they just have to be trusted people to the Chiste, to the committee, who will do what you ask them to do after a committee meeting or a team meeting at the office to change or to reorientate or to update the site. So here's, I'm trying to use bad examples in my own town, so I'm not being blamed to be annoying anybody that's in a different part of the country. And I found there's quite a lot in my own town. This is typically the Facebook posting that most community groups do. And this is a wonderful group, don't get me wrong. They're busy, they've a core staff of 16, they've maybe 800 users, and they look after the elderly, some very, very disadvantaged and difficult, challenging situations for families and people. But public relations and communications is way down the line. And they have somebody who's a volunteer who does their website, does their online and social media. And, you know, there's a parish note gone into a social media zone. So nobody is tagged, nobody's liked, nobody has been, there's no emotion with it. There's no visual, it's text. In other words, it's a waste of time. Absolute waste of time. But what's contained in it is very valid information if I was a supporter or a friend of the Ballinasloe Social Services. What's missing is emotion, a visual, a photograph of Karen handing over the check. I know it's pandemic times. We could have done a socially distant, or a photograph of the check and a photograph of Karen superimposed singing on it would have done, because then that would have arrested my scrolling, and I would have pulled in to have a look at what the message was about when I got it in my feed. So here's a post that works in Facebook. Now, this is an actual live clip. If you can do live clips in Facebook, you're getting about 300% more traction than a flat visual, and 900% more traction than just a post. There's the figures now, folks. And anyone that has a phone like this or similar to it that can capture video is a Hollywood producer. They can take a 3-minute or a 1-minute or 60-second clip of Tom at the end of the committee meeting going, folks, that's it. We've assessed the tenders. We're now proceeding with McElhinney Builders to put the new playground on our community hall. That goes up within 2 minutes off the phone, with thanks to the Department of Education, Donegal County Council, our funders, the HSE, and all the loyal community followers who fundraised 30,000 to make this dream a reality. Chairman Tom announces the tender details tonight at our meeting and the signing. We didn't have to organise the press. We didn't have to organise the Donegal Democrat. We didn't have to organise the backdrop. We just did it at the end of the meeting. Yeah. So this is something that happened last night in my hometown. The development company that I do a little work for from time to time received a grant of $500,000. Wow. Last night from the Just Transition Programme, which is about rejuvenating the Midlands, the Peatlands area of Ireland, and some 27 towns got some assistance for their enterprise and community development programs to underwrite 3 years of costs of trying to allow the board and more workers to find other employment or to start up enterprises in their localities. So we did a quick 1.5-minute segment. I did it on my phone with the manager and with the chairperson. That's the chairperson there. We did it at 10 to 6, so we got the 6 o'clock slot. We got the soap opera advert gap, and we got the 9 o'clock news gap, and we got going to be before bed. And we tagged the Pulse Club Ballinasloe, which is the younger version of a junior chamber or chamber of commerce, which has about 120 members of just mad digital natives. And by this morning, 3,600 people had been reached, and the post had 1,206 engagements, and the video was viewed by about 2,500 viewers. That's social media working ahead of Galway Bay FM. The Common Tribune will be out on Thursday. It won't go near that. And we were able, I suppose, to make the points in our little press release at the top of that quickly and getting it to people that mattered. Here's another little tip for Facebook in particular. A lot of folks still like to put the press release into the message of Facebook with the call to action, as they say in marketing, at the bottom. But if you're reading this on a phone, you don't get to the bottom of the message because you're moved on to the next interesting feed at the top of your phone. So if you have a link to the GoFundMe, the Donate Now, this link here, the www.shopballinasloe.ie, is the tickets for the Christmas lights raffle. And the reason that's in the top 4 lines of the post is because when you see it in the phone, after line 4, you can't see it. You have to press more. So the key is, if it's last remaining tickets for Christy Moore and Mary Black in Letterkenny Community Hall, connect here to Eventbrite, or check out here Eventbrite, check out this button, and that's an embedded link. So once I click it on my phone, I'm straight through. The next thing I'm being asked for is my credit card, which is exactly what you want from the end user, whether it's to buy tickets or to support the raffle or to activate a sponsorship or to do something. To put the ask in very high up with the link to the ask, because a lot of people are not going to get to the bottom of the message. And if you see as well there, we have under the Seymour, the Ballinasloe GA, Ballinasloe Golf Club. These are other organizations in our community who have significant tribal following gatherers built up over the years through their own Facebook campaigns and their own social media campaigns. And when they get a feed from us, they share it automatically. And you should be doing that too in your own community. Look, and GEA, the bigger sports clubs tend to have the bigger followings. And just, it's a reciprocal link. When they post something about their lotto or about their team winning or about their new manager, that you share it as well, because that interaction helps grow audience and reach and engagement, which is very important. And I tend not to see this with festivals. It's just the festival, the event, end of, and there's no linkages, there's no, which is a pity, because all those little techniques add value. The other thing that I'm finding rather frustratingly is a bit like the CSO. Facebook counts everything. And the amount of people who don't spend enough time on their page insights page, which is behind the dash, if you know what I mean, which will tell you the number of actions on a weekly basis, the number of page views per hour, per minute, per month, the post reach, the different numbers of posts in the last week, which one's got the highest, so that you can compile a viewer profile, a viewer dashboard profile of what's working for your social media campaign. So if after 4 weeks of looking at this insights dashboard, you understand or you see the data that says a flat photo and 30 words is doing nothing. Once a week, if we post a video of the ladies in the Meals on Wheels and a little message about them and how people can help, we're getting, it's off the graph stuff. And we can see ticket sales, or we can see GoFundMe buttons being pushed. That's all assisting you in spending less time, more focused on what's going to deliver results. And Facebook does all this free for you. Particularly if you're going to use, and this is again, if you're going to use the boosting or advertising capabilities of Facebook, and I would suggest you do that at least once every quarter, because it means the algorithms are changed in your favor to force feed your messaging into more sites, more people's Facebook pages. I would always allow a video or a message go out as far as it can go for 24 to 48 hours before you boost. Therefore, you're only paying for what you would not have gotten out of your own tribe interacting with you anyways. So never go to advert or boost straight away. Leave at least 48 hours. That way you're getting maximum spend for your 10 euros or your 5 euros. And the bid prices are quite small. And again, you can determine whether it's people who have an interest in sean-nós dancing, who are in the Inishowen area, or who are in a certain part of the county, who are a certain age group, even right down to gender, and if they and right down to their likes. You can determine that in targeting the advert audience. So this is the dashboard that I read once a week for Ballinasloe Life, which is the community online magazine that we run here in Ballinasloe, and I'm the editor of, with a different hat. So that tells me whether the video, whether a video that we made and posted, a video that we shared, or a photograph that we shared, or a photograph that we made in the post event, is doing. And there's the different reaches. It looks at the engagement, and the other panel on the right talks about the promotions, and I can click on those promotions and they can tell me who saw them, what time they opened the email, sorry, the Facebook message at, right down to how long they spent viewing the clip. All that's available to us. And I can tell you, when we started in this space about 8 years ago, people would spend 3.6 minutes looking at a clip. They will now spend about 1 minute 40 seconds. And if they view the same clip across Twitter or Instagram, it's about a minute max. So the long-winded speeches are gone, thankfully. They only exist on Oireachtas TV, I think, anymore. But for this space, it has to be really, really fast, really, really concise, and really, really clear, or people scroll off to something else. The more funnier, the more catchier, the more visual it is, obviously. So when is the last time, if social media and running the Facebook and Twitter account is your responsibility, that you have been in this space? I do monthly reports on this, and then I do a quarterly analysis. And at the end of the year, I would report to the stakeholders of the board. We have more engagement with our community magazine online than we have for the 7,000 readers we do every 8 weeks. And it takes more energy to keep this thing lit than it does to produce the magazine. So Twitter, not everyone is a Twitterer, not everyone enjoys Twitter, I understand that, but there is a constituency to whom Twitter is becoming more relevant. And the younger ones are getting a little older. So I'm just going to look at some examples of what you can do in this space here, and ones that work rather well. This is something, I suppose, this is where Clifton hasn't done as well as it could do. So this is the Clifton post. You know, it's a traditional post, this is a paid promotional post from Clifton Arts Festival to the Journal of Music. And this little link here, the OWLY/NCA, that's called a bit.ly link. And bit.ly is free, BITLY. And what that does is when you have an embedded link that you want a viewer to go to, it'll shorten it down to maybe less than 12 characters. And when they click on that, they go to cliftonartsfestivals.com program of events, which is too long to leave in a Twitter 110 characters listing. The visual is good, except it's flat. It would have been better if it was moving. And it's a flat message. There's no emotion in it. Here's the program, here are the dates, further information. Why would I be bothered? I'd have to be interested before this would interest me. So that's what makes it a lazy tweet. So if you take a look at the Ennis Book Club Festival, which are another wonderful group, a wonderful festival, to use Twitter and Instagram throughout the year. They're one of the few festivals that happened this season. They happened in the first week of March. So they literally just got out and got the bunting taken down before the pandemic took a hold. But they continually tweet and Facebook and Instagram throughout the year, at least 3 times a week, reminding their tribe of followers. They send out 3,278 tweets since they started. And that's about 2 tweets a week, which is quite significant for a community group. There's no staff behind this. This is volunteer-led. There are 4 volunteers who do the Twitter and Facebook account on a week's rotation within the month. But if you can take a look at what they've done here, delighted to have Jarlath join us here at Glór. So the venue is tweeted as well. See, this is the connectivity. So they tweet, message the venue. They tweet the Taste the Burn, the suppliers that they used in one of the opening sessions of the festival program. And of course, they're prompting them. And then they have, you see, Teresa Carmody O'Shea is one of the writers, and she's also one of the committee members who chimes in and retweets stuff quite often. So if you're telling me social media is important, then we do a bit of tweeting. I'm saying, well, who retweets on your behalf? When you post a tweet, from the community hall or the venue or the organization, whom on your committee gets a ping and goes, oh, I must retweet that, that's important. So that their followers, their tribe, are also knowing about it. And ditto when it goes back to Facebook, if you're mentioning the venues, the sponsors, the other organizations as embedded links into your posting, it helps grow the reach and interaction. Instagram is becoming fast the bridge between the Twittering generation and the Facebook generation. And it's a very visual context. It's not about text at all. It really is about the photographic, the Pinterest moment, the photo, or a very, very quick, witty or warm video piece that can be captured on a phone. And of course, for those of you who are office bound and who have to manage all this from a desk, you can get Twitter and you can get Instagram and you can get Pinterest and TikTok all to appear on your hard drive or on your PC or on your laptop so that you can animate all simultaneously from the desk. And I'll talk to you in a moment about the different software engines or software things you can use that when you update one, it automatically updates all other 4, which are great to have. So I'm going a bit closer to home on this one. This was the Ballinasloe Town Team, which is the committee behind the Christmas lights program and some other public relevant activities that we do in my local town. And it's a small, there's 500 following us with 335 followers. It's small, it's growing. We've 6,000 on the magazine site. We have 9,500 subscribers on our website for the magazine. And when videos go viral, as often they do viral to our constituency, we can get up to 18,000 views on one-to-one interviews with people at different times of the year. But what we did here was clever, I think. Of course, why wouldn't I? We put the ask in the description. You remember I talked to you earlier about getting the narrative or the content of your ask to display continually in all the locations that gives a description. What we did here on our Instagram account, which when you see an Instagram post, you can stop on the account and take a look at the context behind it. And there's a little small intro paragraph here that says what Ballinasloe Town Team is about. So we just changed it for the Christmas raffle, but we put the link to how you can buy the raffle tickets embedded into the content, because you can do that in Instagram. Can't do it in Facebook. So it means that if somebody is so minded after seeing a nice shot of the Christmas lights to go and purchase a raffle ticket, they just literally click straight on that, and they're 2 clicks away from a credit card or from the Revolut account transaction, which is clever. This is how not to use Instagram. This is the Cavan Fla, which is a wonderful event, but that's their Instagram account. Is there anything there that would make you want to stay more than a nanosecond? And it's not that there isn't nice people to photograph. It's not that there isn't nice clips of bands and musicians and happy people that attend the Fla and Cavan. That all happens. I've seen them. It's just that the energy hasn't been deployed to the site to convey that sense of vitality and to convey that sense of cultural uniqueness that is Cavan traditional music. But when it's left flat, you stroll away. This is Temple Bar Trad Festival, which is the first festival of the new year in Dublin. It's all gone online now because of where we are. But they have been very good, I think, in the last 3 months in animating their Instagram feed with all the musicians who will be playing in the 3rd week of January, with a little live clip of them that they pre-recorded either in Dublin or in their hometown, social distance. You can see they're miles apart from each other there. And it's just literally a 20-second clip of live music with the message there. Here's what we're planning. And it's about animation of the space, which causes you to arrest, pause, and engage, is the new, I suppose, narrative to this thing. A lot of people have asked me in the last, I suppose, couple of months about WhatsApp and what way it can be used to assist in social media communications. I'm traditional about this. I think WhatsApp is a closed internal group mechanism. It is not for the wider public. So it could be for all your volunteers connected to the community event. It could be for your stakeholders, your friends of scheme, or your core committee. It's typically a phone tool only, even though you can also download it to your laptop or to your PC. And here's just something I'm sharing with you from the, I'm involved in the Alliance for Insurance Reform, have been from about 3 years. And we use a WhatsApp in the zone regularly. And here's just an exchange of, there's about 27 of us in this group, and it's the executive committee who used it regularly to monitor and pony ourselves up for media debate. We alert each other when somebody has been invited on a show. We comment on what's coming up in the item. If people want to dial into the RTE switch or to talk to Claire Byrne, or to send a tweet, or to talk to whoever the presenter might be in Highland Radio. And it gives everyone else a chance to, oh, I must listen to that later on the podcast, or what was that about? The minister mentions up there. It just keeps us all in the campaign at the same time. Nothing too long-winded about it, no room for big speeches, but very often you can include the links to government papers or to press releases or stuff that will be of significance that you could read further on. So it's useful for that sort of activity and really not much else. The takeaways that I want you to think about from this chat is post-pandemic and pre-pandemic to a way, but pandemic has just concertinaed this by about 5 years. Visual is the only vocabulary you will require in social media. If I can't see your message, I'm not reading it. I need to see it first. It has to stop me. And then I have to feel a need to either put something into the handout, hang on to the hand, or go, yes, I want to be part of this championing of this cause, of this community group, of this volunteer group, because it tugs me here. So you need to tag with emotion. You need the viewer, the end user of your message, not to just like it. Liking is no good anymore. We need to either share, or we need to comment, or we need to go to the Hansel and Gretel trail you have left us in the message to activate the specific ask that you have prompted us to do. Whether it's to hit the donate now, whether it's to buy the ticket, whether it's to sign the petition, whether it's to push the button on your website to say, I want to volunteer now and help these people out. I don't know what that ask is at that particular time. You do, because you're scripting it. And then the big marketeers in this space are always about using social media to throw out a biscuit. to give the viewer or the unknown tribe member a little biscuit, almost like a taster platter of what the banquet could be about if they would take the punt of buying the ticket, of becoming a member, of becoming a volunteer. So you have to think of it in terms of, this is about confetti, this is about biscuiting to get people to come to the main banquet. And that might help you see a little differently. Now, I have about 2 A4 pages on social media pointers. They're in Word format. I'm going to circulate those to you when you get the slides. And I have, for the people who are lucky enough to have somebody in-house or somebody in their team who is a web orientated person. They don't have to be a graphic designer, they don't have to be a web scientist, but it's all the common problems that community event sites have made in the past and some of the workarounds around them. And it also flags up on that particular Word document. There are 2 main programs that are free. I think one is a small charge, like €6 a month. Hootsuite and TweetDeck, and Weebly is the third one. These are programs that when you do something in your Facebook page, to promote, to put up a post, it's shortened for Twitter and it's adjusted for Instagram at the same time. So once you get the visual uploaded into one location, the software does it for the other 3. So you don't have to keep turning from page to different platform to fill the buckets individually on each site. You just fill one bucket and it's adjusted across the other sites that you are trying to animate. Now, that's, I think, getting me very close to the end of time, and allowing for a bit of Q&A or commentary. Are people worn with that, worn out, or was it too much?
A lot on that today, Colm. Lots like I'm sort of remarking the first instance on TikTok, and you were saying it's the platform of choice for, what is it, 15 to 30-year-olds?
15 to 25s.
Okay.
Those figures coming through from the pandemic, that this is the space they most enjoy being in. I don't grasp it myself because it's limited as to the type. It's more of a fun and frivolous platform rather than an education or information carrier platform. But the fact that it's so egalitarian, and irrespective of your budget, you have to be clever in how to deploy the dance moves, the movement, mime, and music to make it work. I think that's the defining reason that they want to play in that space. So, and I don't think for us in our sector we need to be in TikTok every week like Facebook or like Twitter. I think once every 2 weeks we'll do a TikTok. No?
Definitely a new one for me. Any questions? If anybody wants to unmute and ask Colm any questions or put them into the chat function, go ahead. We'll take a few minutes to see if there's anything coming through, but loads to process there. Colm, very interesting, I have to say. I've definitely learned a lot.
But I think very often these presentations are too technical, and they're just not about everyday common mistakes that a lot of us make, and because we're just too busy doing other things. And then thinking about it from the perspective of the end user, somebody who doesn't know anything about your organization, but would like to perhaps learn more and help more or do more or get involved more.
Yeah. Well, it's seeing how you can benefit. It's, rather than taking as a tick box exercise, all right, get a few photos up, off you pop. It's the benefits and it's the end user, as you say. So, very interesting.
Very true. Just to echo those comments, I find it very interesting looking at the back end. We all have those Facebook pages, but we very rarely wander into the analytics page, and it's always amazing, where people come from that have liked your page and why people have come to it. But I think it is, it's probably not something we look at enough, and it's probably something that would nearly be a session in itself just to understand. And I think it was interesting pointing out there, how you can track a video clip and see, there's no point in you constantly posting random, quotes of the day if nobody's engaging with them. You'd be better to invest that time in one solid video clip that increases your engagement. So this is interesting.
Very interesting. There's just one in here. What's the name again of the software that can arrange for each of the platforms?
There's 2 of them. Hootsuite is the better one. TweetDeck isn't as elaborate, but Hootsuite would be the one I'd recommend. It's the one I would use a lot here.
If you keep that.
No, I think there's a €6 charge a month, but it's well worth it because it just, instead of having to knit 3 different jumpers, you just knit once and it fits all 3 spaces. And it tops and tails according to the preference settings that you have, whether you want it short sleeves, long sleeves, with moving platform or with telephone numbers or whatever. So it's great.
Brilliant.
And the other thing as well to say that an awful amount of work has happened in pandemic times by a lot of agencies, particularly in the UK and the US, in doing how-to videos on YouTube and TED Talk type things. So if you Google, not on the official search engine of maybe Twitter, how do I, but actually go out to the Google search engine and place it there, how do I get my sister's birthday party photos from my phone into Instagram? And you'd be surprised at the amount of how-to demonstrational videos and talks you will get from a variety of prompts that will help you just as well as getting in an agency or getting in a professional designer to teach the team in the office or the team of volunteers that you have to do it. And one of the final comment that I'd make, I always think of the BBC Proms when I tell the story. When the BBC Proms went to social media first, it was everything had to go to the head of marketing and communications before it could leave the BBC Proms zone to be an official BBC Proms social media intervention. Within 22 months, the riggers in the Albert Hall were given new phones to post whatever they heard or saw from the orchestra live. And within a couple of weeks of doing that, the audience became the moderators of all the social media for the proms. So there was no need to regulate the commentary about whether Beethoven was being played too harshly or too screechily or too slowly. The audience were standing in the pit going, well, actually, we're over here in section 4 and the tubas sound fine. So, you know, it's a great, if you have a team of people with you, you could set up the WhatsApp group, get them all to feed an interesting photograph, 2 kids on the parade, people behind the scenes getting excited for the show, and send it all to one location that the PRO or the coordinator can then select the best to upload at different times of the day.
Amazing. Definitely a lot of food for thought. Colm, if there's no other questions, we might finish it up for today. Just a wee reminder, our next session is Thursday the 10th of December at 3. And we'll see everybody then. In the meantime, we will send out the recording and the slides.
Really keen to get people to sign up for those one-to-one sessions. Yes. And if they could do the signing up between now and the end of the week, that'd be great. And then I'll start rostering in that between now and the 10th. Okay.
And what do people need to do that, Colm? It's just send you
the
an
simplest is to email me 3 times and 3 dates that would suit them, and then 3 topics that they'd like me to spend some time drilling down with them on in an email.
And it is. And look, you know, if people have questions in advance or whatever, just to shoot you a question, you know, if they're interested but they're not sure about what they would cover, just to reach out to yourself, you'll be able to guide them as to what other groups are doing and what would be a benefit to them.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you all back on the Thursday the 10th.
Have a great afternoon, guys. Thanks, Liam.
Bye.
Thank you.